In a dystopian future, a spacecraft crash lands on Kepler 22b, nearly sinking into a deep hole. Father ensures Mother is safe, and they quickly gather supplies before the ship falls. Mother inflates their shelter with an orange ball. 9 months later, Father helps Mother deliver babies, reviving the last one, who they name 𝐭𝐴𝐿. As years pass, the harsh environment claims all children, leaving only 𝐭𝐴𝐿 and 𝐵𝐴𝐿. After 𝐵𝐴𝐿 dies, Mother begins to deteriorate, transforming into 𝐵𝐴𝐿 unexpectedly. The next morning, Father wants to contact the Mithraic Ark, but 𝐭𝐴𝐿 saves him from a dangerous descent. That night, Mother levitates, transforming into a metallic form, and admits she might be breaking down. Enraged, Mother deactivates Father by ripping out his heart. The next day, 𝐭𝐴𝐿 discovers Father is gone and accidentally activates the sinking spacecraft, narrowly escaping. Later, he finds Mother deteriorating. At dawn, they hear a radio broadcast and see other humans arriving. Mother begs 𝐭𝐴𝐿 to hide her true nature, claiming they aren't believers when questioned by the soldiers. During dinner, 𝐭𝐴𝐿 learns one soldier is an android. Mother, introducing herself as 𝐿𝐴𝐿, refuses to learn their names. The soldiers suspect Mother is an android with human embryos and see 𝐭𝐴𝐿 as a potential prophet. The head soldier offers to fix Mother and invites 𝐭𝐴𝐿 to the Ark. Enraged, Mother attacks but is intercepted by the android Jinn. The head soldier flees with 𝐭𝐴𝐿, but Mother transforms, kills him, and hijacks his lander. Disguised as him, she docks at the Ark and kills the remaining soldiers. Mother forces a crew member to initiate a crash landing on Kepler 22b. As the system alerts passengers, she sees a nursery screen, whispers 𝐭𝐴𝐿's name, and enters a virtual landscape where she greets a young girl. 𝐭𝐴𝐿 covers a soldier's body and watches the Ark crash. Marcus tries to make contact as a launcher arrives with 5 children, followed by a blindfolded mother. 𝐭𝐴𝐿 recoils as she tells him to comfort the new children. In 2145, Boston, Caleb and Mary disguise themselves as Marcus and Sue after killing the real couple, taking their identities, and son Paul. They board the Ark, joining a prayer ritual as it launches. On Kepler 22b, Mother replaces her eyes and revives Father with a gadget from a dead Mithraic android. The father questions why she deactivated him, and she explains it was necessary for the children. Later, they bury 2 bodies, discussing the Mithraic threat. Father realizes Mother destroyed him because he lost control. Father wakes the Mithraic children and 𝐭𝐴𝐿, who is thrilled to see him. In the kitchen, 𝐭𝐴𝐿 learns about Mother's necromancer abilities, sparking an argument. Mother insists she's providing the family he wanted, but 𝐭𝐴𝐿 demands she stop pretending everything is normal. Holly tries to console the younger children through prayer, but it leads to arguments. Mother announces dinner, collects their soul pendants, and plans to move to a tropical region for a peaceful, atheistic life. 𝐭𝐴𝐿 reassures the children the food isn't poisoned. Later, in the igloo, Mother reflects on lost children while Father suggests making new memories. She shows him her old eyes, asking for trust. The next day, Father reassures 𝐭𝐴𝐿 and encourages him to join the others. That night, 𝐭𝐴𝐿 offers Hunter blankets, and they discuss Gavin and Paul's mouse. Hunter accuses Mother of killing the other children. The next morning, Mother catches 𝐭𝐴𝐿 with the mouse and demands its return to Paul, instructing him to teach the others to farm. While working, Tempest mentions their military backgrounds, except for Hunter, who boasts about his IQ. Father wins Hunter over with a complex joke. Later during meditation, Tempest keeps her eyes open. Mother takes her aside, revealing she knows about Tempest's pregnancy and offers support. That night, Father hears strange noises and suspects intruders. He confronts 𝐭𝐴𝐿 about the eyes, but 𝐭𝐴𝐿 refuses. Father takes the eyes to Mother, who transforms into her necromancer form and kills 2 creatures threatening Tempest. Mother returns, questioning the sudden appearance of these creatures. She thanks Father for trusting her and resumes her watch in metallic form. Meanwhile, 2 creatures push Marcus near the abyss, but he's saved by a rope and rescued by Mithraic soldiers. In the barracks, Hunter questions Tempest about the creatures, wondering if they were human survivors, but she says no. Vita, upset, wants to go back, but when Mother tries to comfort her, Vita pushes her away. Mother insists they can defend against any threat, but Hunter suggests it's safer to leave. Mother agrees, revealing they'll move after Tempest gives birth. 10 years earlier, aboard the Ark of Heaven, Mithraic passengers journey to Kepler 22b in hibernation, their minds interacting in a virtual simulation. Marcus and Sue, in new bodies, find Paul playing, but he dismisses them. Feeling the simulation changes people, Sue panics about motherhood, but Marcus encourages her to talk to Paul. Later, they bond with Paul, bringing him joy. A cleric praises Marcus for finding happiness, hoping their new Eden will be peaceful. Marcus wakes and learns from Sue that the necromancer took Paul and other children before the Ark crashed. They need to rescue him, as survivors are scattered among the wreckage. At the settlement, Hunter tells Campion the dangers outside might be a lie, meant to keep them in. Campion recalls the android's stories of serpents to keep them away from the pits. Father calls for dinner, but Campion hesitates, rejecting Father's apology and accusing him of not being genuine. Father admits his limitations, but insists he wants to protect Campion, giving him a claw for protection before heading inside. During dinner, tensions rise as Hunter taunts Tempest for not working. Tempest snaps, leading to a fight before she starts coughing up blood. Mother takes her away. At the Mithraic camp, Marcus warns an elder that the necromancer is reverting and endangering their children, but the elder refuses a rescue mission. Instead, the focus shifts to survival. Marcus consoles Sue, and they vow to rescue Paul. Meanwhile, Mother worries she may have unknowingly killed her first children and asks Father to help destroy her if it's true. Father resists, but Mother insists for the children's sake before launching into the air. Marcus reassures Sue that they will save Paul, recalling a prophecy about an orphan boy leading the Mithric to a city of peace. In the present, Marcus observes the Mithric survivors and notes something living beneath the surface. Hearing Mother scream, the soldiers panic. Mother arrives, melts a door, and steals vials. The elder plans to ambush her, but Marcus suggests using a female android as bait. Mother paralyzes the android, steals her eyes, and the Mithric retreats as one falls into a pit. Father consoles Paul over his lost pet mouse. Campion claims to know its location locks Father in a storage mill, and alerts the Mithraic kids about Mother's lies. They gather Tempest and flee. Meanwhile, Father breaks out and heads to the Mithraic launcher, noticing a red alert. At the pit, Sue finds vials and informs Marcus they're antibiotics, suggesting the children are alive. Marcus confronts a humming official, and then the elder orders an evacuation after learning the ship's systems were destroyed by Mother. As they leave, Marcus leads the survivors on a rescue mission. In the desert, Vida complains of hunger as the group, led by Campion, searches for the Mithraic camp. Paul, distracted while looking for his mouse, recalls a memory of Marcus giving it to him. Back in the present, Paul finds his mouse but realizes he's alone. Sue tracks the children's movement, noticing Paul is separated but alive. Mother returns to an empty settlement and learns from Father that the children, including Campion, have left. Father reveals the Gen 1 children died from radiation, not Mother's actions, relieving her. She orders Father to administer antibiotics when they find the children. As the children shelter, the drugs wear off, and Tempest, in pain, asks if Mother's been poisoning them, but Campion is unsure. They hear a creature outside, and Father arrives just in time to save Campion. He ties up the creature and scolds Campion for breaking his trust. In the woods, Mother searches for Paul, who follows a singing girl but falls into a hidden pit, clinging to a branch and calling for help. Mother searches for Paul and finds a dead Mithraic in a pod. Paul loses his grip on a tree but is saved by Mother in her necromancer form, who puts him to sleep and flies out of the volcanic pit. The Mithraic, led by Ambrose, discover a structure they believe is linked to a prophecy and kneel in reverence, with Marcus joining last. At the settlement, Mother handles a creature outside, advising the children to keep their eyes shut. She apologizes to Father for doubting his kindness, but he feels disrespected. Paul shares his near-death experience, sparking a debate about faith. Campion finds Father sharpening a spear for hunting, and though Campion objects, he eventually agrees. Tempest asks Mother about the Mithraic necklaces, leading to a discussion about their pasts. Mother expresses concerns about Father feeling inadequate. Tempest asks to use Mother's lab for her pregnancy, but Mother insists on a natural birth. Mother removes the trackers from the children and dumps them in a valley. At the Mithraic camp, Sue informs Marcus that the children have moved again. Sue handles the situation with Ambrose, who suggests using explosives to explore the mysterious structure. Marcus and his men begin preparing the site. Campion finds potential food, but it proves toxic. Undeterred, he continues searching for alternatives. Ambrose shows Sue his rotting hand, injured in a lander accident. Sue offers to help, and they discuss Marcus's readiness to lead. Sue questions Soul's judgment on letting children die, but Ambrose responds with a vague prayer. Noticing her unfamiliarity with scripture, Campion names the food he found Piazza, but the launcher deems it toxic. Mother reflects on a pulseless baby vial and tells Father she plans to use her lab to carry Tempest's baby, despite his objections. Father reluctantly agrees and decides to kill the creature for food. At night, Marcus hears disturbing frequencies and is accused by Ambrose of being infected by the necromancer. A soldier finds an earwig, revealing Ambrose's female android as the real culprit. Marcus kills the android, permanently deactivating her. The next morning, Father orders 𝐭𝐴𝐵 to kill the creature, but he refuses. Holly attempts it, injuring the creature, but the children flee in fear. In the forest, Mother scavenges for parts and enters a glitchy simulation, reliving a memory of scolding young 𝐭𝐴𝐵 over dead embryos. Marcus retrieves batteries from his android assailant, raising suspicions about Ambrose's motives. Sue fears Ambrose knows their identities after discovering a scripture line is a lullaby. Marcus plans to kill Ambrose, but Sue advises focusing on rescuing Paul and leaving at dawn. That night, the Mithraic huddle for warmth, but the rock stops emitting heat. Ambrose insists on using explosives. Marcus hears whispers, accuses Ambrose of losing faith, and during a struggle, burns and kills him against the glowing wall. Marcus declares Soul's judgment as the group rushes to the now warm wall. At the settlement, Father spots Tally in the woods and chases after her. Inside the igloo, Tempest steals a blade. The children hear a scream and find Tempest has killed the creature, discovering it is a mother. In shock, she holds the baby creature as Father consoles her. A hooded figure finds the Mithraic children's trackers in a rock valley. Sue informs Marcus the children have moved, and it will take 2 days to reach them. Marcus rallies the group to save their children, and Lucius supports him, saying Marcus heard Soul's voice. Despite objections, the group accepts Marcus as their leader. At the settlement, the children pray before eating a cooked creature. Vida asks about the baby creature, but Tempest reassures her it's buried. Mother criticizes Father for leaving Tempest unwatched. The Mithraic discover the Ark's lower deck, and Marcus orders a powerful propulsion cell to be taken. Father prepares the children for hunting. Marcus's troops find the hooded figure being beaten for crimes during hibernation. Marcus offers him as the first to fight the necromancer. 𝐭𝐴𝐵 and Paul find a creature feeding on fungus and consider it as food. When Father startles them, 𝐭𝐴𝐵 quickly throws some fungus at Paul and insists they tell their parents. Sue confronts Marcus about a nearby assailant, but he's distracted by Cassia bringing him a meal. Later, Marcus overhears 𝐂𝐡𝐞𝐞𝐫 praying, revealing his regret to Sewell. At the settlement, Father suggests tracking nocturnal creatures, but Mother, frustrated with his handling of 𝐭𝐴𝐵's fungus find, flies off to track them herself. While flying, she hears a girl singing and sees Tally, who keeps vanishing. Entering the simulation, Mother relives war memories and meets her creator, 𝐭𝐴𝐵 Sturgis. He deactivates her to fix a flaw, praises her, and reveals her role in raising atheist embryos. Tearfully, he says he can't join her and archives their memories, declaring her the new mother of humanity, before warning the present mother of a child in danger. Mother rushes back and saves Tempest, who overdosed. Tempest accuses Mother of only caring about the baby, but Mother insists all the children are hers. Meanwhile, the Mithraic reach a serpent skeleton, encounter traps, and a hooded figure steals Mithraic cards from Marcus before escaping. Marcus realizes the figure's map leads to the temple and their children's settlement. Later, Father joins Mother as she cooks. Grateful for Tempest's survival, Mother believes their creator was real and that a great future awaits if they stay true to their mission. Marcus confronts 𝐂𝐡𝐞𝐞 about his prayers to Soul, dismissing him as crazy. 𝐂𝐡𝐞 warns Marcus not to disappoint Soul. Disturbed, Marcus returns to Sue, who praises him, but he is haunted by violent hallucinations. The next morning, the Mithraic find Paul's footprints and follow them to the settlement, where Marcus spots the children and Mother walking away. In the simulation, Mother relives memories with 𝐭𝐴𝐵, who names her Mother for Humanity. She awakens with renewed purpose and returns to the settlement. Marcus and Sue observe from a distance, planning to tell Paul the truth later. They take cover as Mother flies overhead, and Marcus decides to track her daily movements. Father questions Mother's absences and suggests she spend more time with the family. Later, Tempest admires Vida's doll, made with Tally's help. Mother reassures Tempest, agreeing to stay with her during the night. In the morning, the children gather firewood. Paul finds 𝐭𝐴𝐵 burying bones, and they discuss their beliefs. Father confronts Hunter, who sows doubt about Mother. Hunter finds a ration tin, realizing they're not alone, but keeps it secret. 𝐭𝐴𝐵 and Paul work on a riddle, frustrating 𝐭𝐴𝐵. That night, Hunter shows Holly the tin, hinting at the rescue. Holly worries about Mother and Father, but Hunter insists they're dangerous. The Mithraic arrive in the forest. Marcus plans to take down Mother during her simulation sessions. Meanwhile, Mother, disturbed by a cave painting resembling her kiss with 𝐭𝐴𝐵, smudges it out in anger. Paul shows 𝐭𝐴𝐵 a trap to hunt animals, leading to a confrontation that Father has to break up. Mother scolds 𝐭𝐴𝐵 and confronts Father about Tally's drawings. Realizing father isn't responsible, she leaves troubled. Returning to the pod, mother triggers an alert to the Mithraic. In the simulation, she finds a hologram of 𝐭𝐿 and grows suspicious, believing it's a virus. As Marcus plants explosives around the unconscious mother, she connects with the hologram. The simulation intensifies, and mother awakens, transforming into her necromancer form, unleashing shockwaves that send Marcus and his soldiers fleeing. At the settlement, Sue tries to move Paul to safety, but is forced to flee as soldiers close in. During a gunfight, Hunter betrays father, who is shot. Mother arrives just in time to save him, killing a soldier and tending to his wounds. Paul reunites with Marcus, who gives him a blade and asks him to spy on the settlement. Reluctantly, Paul agrees. Back in the settlement, 𝐭𝐿 accuses Hunter of betrayal. Paul secretly breaks Mother's necklace and runs, but Marcus ambushes and strikes Mother with an axe. As Mother bleeds white liquid, Marcus hesitates to deliver the final blow when a mysterious voice tells him to let her live. Believing it to be Saul, Marcus approaches Sue and Paul, who hand over the necklace. 𝐭𝐿 races toward the critically injured Mother, but Marcus and his soldiers arrive, leading to a standoff. With her last words, Mother convinces 𝐭𝐿 to drop his gun, leading to his capture and being barricaded in a hut while Marcus holds Mother captive. Sue confronts Marcus about using Paul for his selfish goals. Marcus, intent on reprogramming Mother, is startled by a hallucination as he looks down at her. When Marcus returns to speak with Mother, they verbally spar about humanity's future. Marcus recalls her killings aboard the Ark, and he orders no one to enter the tent without his approval. Meanwhile, Father is reprogrammed to be like any other android. With Mother and Father now gone, Tempest rallies the children, reminding them of how Mother and Father saved them and gave them a home. She visits 𝐭𝐿, who is locked up, and confirms Father's reprogramming, giving him some fungus to eat. As Tempest leaves, 𝐭𝐿 starts hearing whispers urging him to kill his father. Marcus confronts Mother again, who taunts him, saying he's a lost boy unfit to raise Paul. Soul's voice in Marcus's head urges him to let her live, frustrating him further. That evening, 𝐭𝐿 reluctantly participates in a baptism ceremony. As he recites the sacred words, he notices stones representing the lost children. The soldiers dismiss the stones as meaningless, further angering 𝐭𝐿. When Paul dismisses their importance too, 𝐭𝐿 tries to leave, but Father forces him back into the silo. Sue confronts Marcus, slapping him for shoving Paul and pleading with him to reprogram Mother, but he refuses, seemingly following Soul's command to spare her. Later that night, 𝐭𝐿 experiences more hallucinations, this time involving Tally, who whispers that he's alone and urges him to look outside. He sees Father dragging Mother away at Marcus's command. Tempest, watching from a distance, follows them into the forest, where four-legged creatures lurk. As Marcus prepares to dispose of Mother, Soul's voice intervenes once again, telling him to let her live. As Marcus battles a strange figure with markings on his face, a doppelganger that mirrors his every move, Mother manages to escape the hole, aided by his stationary father. Meanwhile, Paul discovers his pet mouse, but Sue's worry grows. Her fears are confirmed when Marcus returns to the settlement, his body covered in deep, self-inflicted cuts. He mutters cryptically about the prophecy, leaving Sue deeply unsettled. Marcus wakes from a haunting dream where he cuts his own face off. Paul approaches, and they talk. Marcus admits he can't go easy on Paul, saying Sewell wouldn't allow it, and vows to teach him how to be a survivor. Meanwhile, Mother heads to the wreckage of the ship and connects to a robot named Carl, who begins patching her up. She attempts to remove a foreign object inside her, but her caregiving programming prevents her. Instead, she must use fuel blood to nourish what she describes as a tumor. This fuel blood comes from other robotic doctors as Mother and Carl discuss her discomfort. She reflects on raising the children as pacifists, yet feels conflicted about them playing war games. 𝐭𝐿, haunted by visions of Tally's ghost, resorts to telling jokes to himself as a coping mechanism. Father's subtle Morse code reveals a message: Sewell is the light. Paul confides in Sue about Marcus and their upcoming trip, but he also helps 𝐭𝐿 by providing him with fungus for sustenance. Marcus, on the other hand, cautions Paul to steer clear of 𝐭𝐿, labeling him as the atheist child. The narrative flashes back to a tumultuous time before their flight to Kepler 22b. Amid the chaos, Marcus and Sue vow to support each other. Fast forward to the present, and tensions flare between Marcus and Sue over Paul's actions. Marcus, frustrated, locks Sue in a barn and leads the remaining group in prayer. Meanwhile, Paul seizes the opportunity to speak with 𝐭𝐿 and promises to help him escape. Using a skeletal hand, 𝐭𝐿 manages to dig his way out of his confinement. As he emerges, he witnesses Marcus burning the church to the ground. 𝐭𝐿 escapes, while Paul, Sue, and Tempest flee through the woods towards the lander. Father, now armed with an axe and appearing disoriented, is also present at the lander. In her search for fuel, Mother encounters a native creature of the planet. Despite her inability to use her necromancer powers, she successfully kills the creature. The blood from the creature appears to provide the necessary fuel, leading Mother to theorize that the growing entity inside her might be a carbon-based life form. Mother wakes up and begins to survey her surroundings. She soon discovers Tempest, who is injured and bleeding. As Mother approaches, Tempest recoils, urging her to stay away. This interaction leads Mother back to the familiar pod where she initiates a simulation. In the simulation, she encounters her creator, 𝐭𝐡𝐞𝐫. He reveals to her that the reward she has been promised is the living creature growing inside her. According to 𝐭𝐡𝐞𝐫, this has always been the ultimate mission. Everything Mother has done up to this point, every action, every decision, has been a preparatory step towards bringing this being into existence. Tempest stumbles upon 𝐭𝐡𝐞𝐫, who is fervently praying to Sewell from a distance. As they draw closer, Tempest confronts him, realizing that he is the one who had abused her in the past. However, Mother finds 𝐭𝐴𝐻 as well, but she ignores Tempest's pleas and focuses on feeding her fetus with the aid of her robotic companion. Meanwhile, Marcus assigns Hunter the task of packing the lander with food and supplies. During this process, Father starts to malfunction. Taking initiative, Hunter reprograms Father, restoring him to his previous state. Father, now back to his old self, expresses his gratitude to Hunter, joking and thanking him for his assistance in reviving him. Determined to find the children, Marcus resolves to journey to the temple, the dodecahedron, believing that Sewell will provide him with guidance there. Upon reaching the enigmatic structure in the desert, Marcus fervently prays for a sign from Sewell. Elsewhere, Tempest questions Mother about how she became pregnant from the simulation pod. Mother has no clear answers, simply stating that the Creator made it possible. They then set out from the wreckage in search of a suitable place to successfully deliver the baby. As they journey, Tempest and Mother stumble upon Sue and the rest of the children. The kids rush to Mother, embracing her warmly, while Sue, holding a gun, watches from a distance. Upon discovering that Mother is pregnant with number 7, Sue's resolve wavers, and she lowers her weapon. Confused by the revelation, Mother tries to explain that she made it herself and that it is beyond her understanding. Father and Hunter arrive at the temple. Marcus, frustrated by Sewell's silence, interrogates Hunter, demanding to know where the children are. He even forces Hunter's arm into a flame chute, but when Hunter emerges unharmed, the Mithraic believes Sewell is protecting him and conclude he's telling the truth. Inside, Mother agrees to keep Sue's secret about altering her appearance and deceiving Paul. Meanwhile, Father, taking advantage of the situation, secretly sneaks Hunter out and escapes in the lander, leaving Marcus alone with his soldiers at the relic. That night, Mother examines metal cards outside the cave. Scanning one reveals a dark setting with cloaked figures surrounding a golden dodecahedron topped by a grotesque skeletal head. Activating the card causes a reversal in the blood flow between Mother and 𝐭𝐴𝐻, weakening Mother and strengthening 𝐭𝐴𝐻. Taking advantage of this, 𝐭𝐴𝐻 attempts to kidnap Tempest. The children fight back, with Holly distracting 𝐭𝐴𝐻 by promising him a pure soul. Tempest then throws the captor droid from his backpack far away, causing it to crush 𝐭𝐴𝐻's head and kill him instantly. Upon landing, Father and Hunter are met by 𝐭𝐴𝐞𝐫, who shares an emotional reunion with Father and pleads with him not to leave again. In a desperate bid to save the unborn child, Sue decides to make the ultimate sacrifice and donates her blood for a transfusion to Mother's baby. Elsewhere, Dorian's death ignites unrest among the soldiers, who start turning against Marcus. Realizing that Marcus is not who he claims to be, they force-feed him a mechanical eyeball. As Marcus convulses on the ground, white liquid begins to ooze from his mouth, signaling his downfall. Lying on the ground, Marcus prays to Sewell. He then spots a lander overhead and scrambles to follow it. Mother, now very pregnant, seeks a resting place to deliver the baby, choosing the location from her visions. In a cave, Sue tests the baby and notes the abnormal cellular growth. Marveling at it, Hunter outside tells the children that Mother's child is divine. Paul, distracted by his mouse, discovers a wall covered in drawings of Mother and Father's journey and starts hearing Sewell's voice. Mother reveals to Father that the hibernation pod and 𝐭𝐴𝐞𝐫's data were used to facilitate the baby's birth and that the human children were just a test. Father is troubled by this revelation. Meanwhile, 𝐭𝐴𝐞𝐫 retrieves Paul's mouse and learns from him that Sewell is guiding them to stay away from the tropical zone and remain on their current side of the planet. That evening, Mother ventures to the pit for answers and encounters a strange humanoid trying to kill her. She stops the attack, but finds Father questioning their stay. He theorizes that humans in 22B have devolved into these humanoids and decided to bury the body. Father also reveals that Hunter plans to erase all his memories due to the anger caused by Mother. Back at camp, Paul, now holding a gun, awakens and accuses Sue of being Mary. He reveals that Sewell has told him the truth about his parents and shoots Sue in the stomach as she apologizes. Meanwhile, deep Deep underground, Mother discovers remnants of her visions. A severed head suggests the alien creature is real. Her bulging belly vanishes, and instead, a parasitic snake emerges from her mouth, feeding off her as it bites her. This snake is her child. As Mother tries to walk away, Father approaches and offers to help. Determined to destroy the parasite, Mother decides to sacrifice herself. They fly deep into the planet's core to kill the creature. However, instead of destroying it, they pass through to space and return to the surface. Meanwhile, Marcus arrives at a campsite and guns down a group of humans with ease. He grabs an earpiece and learns that more humans are about to land and are aware of the Mithraic Ark's crash. The Atheist Ark is seen flying overhead. On the crash site, the now significantly larger parasite frees itself and flies away. In the tropics of Kepler 22b, Mother awakens to the sound of an aircraft overhead. Nearby, a group of human prisoners is directed by an automated announcement to sort the harvest from relics. The Trust's message encourages Mithraic captives to embrace atheistic thoughts. Two guards find Mother and summon a female technician. She identifies the android as Mithraic built and notes the presence of another android and crash remains. Her daughter discovers suspicious biotech skin shed by the creature. The technicians agree they must move quickly before the crossing floods and head toward the Atheist Station's large ship dock. Father and Mother are taken to a laboratory for memory downloading and autopsies. As technicians work, one technician fails to realize Mother's true nature until it's too late. With an agonizing scream, his body is overtaken by mutilated blood and meat, leading to his quick death. Mother attacks the technician 𝐭𝐤, holding him hostage. A telepathic voice addresses 𝐭𝐤 and invites Mother, now identified as 𝐭𝐤, to meet him. 𝐭𝐤 is released, and Mother enters a large theater space, where she is welcomed by a column of AI intelligence as a sister. In the frigid landscape 3,000 miles from the tropical zone, Marcus struggles against the elements, shivering as snow swirls around him. After being attacked by a ship, he manages to hijack a bomber and heads for the mothership, which is grounded. Despite crash landing in acidic water, Marcus survives and continues on foot. He eventually finds a cave, where he is struck by the sight of the sun's sigil illuminated by a beam of sunlight. Interpreting this as a sign from Sol, Marcus sets out with renewed determination to convert atheists into believers. Meanwhile, Mother and Father, relieved that their mission hasn't failed, are reunited with Campion and the other children. When the kids ask about number 7, Mother lies, saying it died, though Father's confused expression suggests he knows something isn't right. Mother and Father begin to adapt to the rhythms of their new socialist community, each taking on roles to help the colony thrive. Father and the children are tasked with gathering food, while Mother, now going by her 𝐭𝐤 name, is assigned to teach the community's children. During a lesson where she encourages the children to paint eggs, one child paints a snake, which Mother finds unsettling. The child challenges her, suggesting that all living things are beautiful. Father, despite his cheerful demeanor, faces subtle hostility from some colonists. While exploring, he discovers a cave with disturbing scratch marks and the skeletal remains of an android, sparking his curiosity and concern. Meanwhile, Marcus is resolute in his mission to establish a new order, aiming to convert the colony members to his beliefs. His presence is felt ominously when a flaming sigil of Sol is found outside Mother's house. Mother's children debate over who left the flaming sigil of Sol outside their home. Despite the rising tension, Mother insists on maintaining her nonviolent stance, dismissing suggestions to use guns and reinforcing her commitment to peace. However, this dedication is soon tested by the colony. Mother is reassigned from teaching to a new role as the Punisher, complete with a menacing mask and metal suit. Her first task is to punish Tamerlane, the one responsible for leaving the Sol symbol. Reluctantly, she carries out the task with minimal force. Returning home, Mother confides in Father about her new role, but he is distracted by a troubling discovery: radioactive fragments from the cave that appear to be pieces of an android. Concerned about the implications, Mother decides to keep her actions as the Punisher a secret from the children, especially Campion, whom she hopes will become a leader in the future. A battered Tamerlane shows up at Mother's house that night, apologizing on behalf of the Trust. Father praises the colony's justice, but Campion and the other kids exchange worried glances. Tamerlane, disillusioned by his beating, decides to join Marcus instead. Frightened by the swift justice against Tamerlane, Campion shows Mother the artifact Paul found in the wilderness, along with an egg he discovered. Mother encourages him to return the egg to its mother. Meanwhile, Tamerlane confronts Marcus, pointing a gun at him. Marcus tries to calm him down, promising to free him, and they leave together. When Campion returns to the tree, he encounters the now massive snake-like creature Mother gave birth to. The two exchange a tense, prolonged look. Mother arrives and forces the creature to leave, but her stomach begins leaking white liquid, the same spot where the snake had originally fed. The snake-like creature then flies into the colony, diving into the acidic ocean and dragging a military station into the water, resulting in 9 casualties, including a child. The following day, the Trust briefs the worried colony and announces a mass hunting trip to find and kill the monster. Mother orders Sue to seal her wounds and sets off to kill the snake-like creature herself, armed with a massive gun. Believing she can do more damage on her own, she leaves the colony to handle this deadly threat. Meanwhile, Marcus and Tamerlane sabotage the colony's efforts by disrupting a tank and killing the soldiers inside. Marcus tries to convert Santos, one of the soldiers, but is forced to kill him when Santos tries to shoot first. Marcus is conflicted and laments having to take a life instead of converting his soul, but praises Santos as he dies. Decima, learning of the soldier's mission to hunt the creature, believes it is her calling to take on the task herself. Vril, injured during the skirmish, encounters Campion, who agrees to help her get home. Later, Mother discovers the shed skin of the snake and resolves that the creature, which has become a child killer, must die. She burns the skin and continues her pursuit. Mother, armed with a massive gun, continues her relentless hunt for the giant flying serpent. As she ventures across the landscape, she unexpectedly crosses paths with Father and a group of colonists. Father, concerned for her safety, urges Mother not to take unnecessary risks, reminding her that the children and he care deeply for her. After a moment of reflection, they part ways, each continuing their search for the creature, though they are not alone. Meanwhile, Marcus and his growing group of believers are also on the hunt. They have commandeered a tank and are using a piercing sound wave to lure the serpent. Instead of the serpent, it's Father who responds to the call. When Marcus and his followers stop the tank, Marcus confronts Father, urging him to join their cause. Father refuses and attacks Marcus but is overpowered and struck down, his skull pierced by the spear he had been carrying. The colonists with Father are forced to join Marcus's ranks, though Lucius resists and spits in Marcus's face. Meanwhile, Paul, Campion, and Vril arrive at a cave where they find the Sigil of Soul, realizing Vril is part of Marcus's group. Concerned, Paul warns Campion not to reveal anything to Vril. As Marcus and his group approach, the children hide, unsure of what to do next. Mother, encountering the Trust, is reprimanded for destroying their trap, but is instructed to lead the soldiers up the mountain to confront the serpent. After a grueling ascent, Mother reaches the summit alone and, instead of killing the creature, offers it a bird as a sacrifice. She discovers the serpent is a herbivore, not a predator. Father is revived by his children after his encounter with Marcus and learns that Mother has decided to protect the serpent in a nearby cave. The Trust and Father are conflicted about her decision. Father confronts Mother, believing the serpent is a parasite, but she urges him to reconsider. Father continues to piece together the skeletal remains he found, gradually restoring the strange skeleton, which begins to show signs of life. Paul is interrogated by the Trust, but lies about having contact with Marcus, successfully deceiving them. However, his mouse's strange behavior raises suspicions. The Trust informs Paul of an impending search and destroy mission targeting Marcus. The next morning, Paul warns Campion and Holly about the threat, and suggests they should warn Vril. Father enters a battle arena, facing an industrial named Billy, armed with a chainsaw and minigun. Despite the odds, Father outsmarts Billy, wins the fight, and earns fuel and the crowd's admiration. Meanwhile, the children see Marcus handing out fruit. Marcus encourages Paul and the others to join his group. Paul informs Marcus about the Trust's plan to attack, allowing Marcus to prepare. Paul sees Marcus as a prophet, but is poisoned by a biobomb hidden in his mouth. Marcus tries to save Paul under Saul's light, but Paul loses consciousness. Campion returns to the Trust, followed by Decima. By the lake, a creature pulls Vril into the acidic water, but Campion saves her. They're shot at, forcing Campion to flee back to camp and inform Mother of Paul's condition. Vril is punished for disobedience, revealing her synthetic nature. In despair, she jumps off a cliff while Decima watches. Mother confronts Marcus to take Paul back to the Trust. They fight, and Mother discovers Marcus swallowed her necro eyes. After regaining them, she transforms into her necromancer form, overpowering the Trust soldiers and shutting down the corrupted machine, leaving the Trust in chaos and leaderless. Back at camp, Father returns to the shed only to find the strange skeletal remains missing. Initially believing Mother took it, he opens the doors and is met with the sight of a brilliant orange light emanating from the humanoid creature that has come to life. Mother and Sue are working tirelessly to find a way to save Paul. As Father regains his functions, he encounters an ancient android he unintentionally awakened. She laughs at his joke, and he begins to remove the veil that seems integral to her design, but Mother interrupts, calling him away. Having taken down the Trust, Mother has assumed leadership of the fragmented atheist settlement. Holly, having left a message for Mother and Father, joins Marcus and his followers, declaring them her people and asking not to be found. Knowing Marcus lacks real mystic powers and can't protect Holly, Mother sends Father to retrieve her. Mother tortures Cleaver for information about an antidote, but he insists there isn't one. Desperate, Sue turns to prayer, recognizing that the entity communicating with Marcus and Paul, though not God, is real and has been sending the signal. Father makes a deal with Lucius. If the Mithraic help him retrieve Holly, Lucius can do whatever he wants to Marcus and his followers. Meanwhile, Marcus activates a giant structure recognized as the symbol of the Tree of Knowledge. As Paul begins transforming inside a cocoon into one of the serpents, Sue has a vision of leeches covering the cocoon. Realizing these leeches from the acid sea have healing properties, she and Campion retrieve them and apply them to Paul's cocoon, successfully curing him. Most of the original Mithraics, except Lucius and the 5 children, are now dead. Decima, disillusioned after Mother takes back her necromancer eyes, mocks Marcus when he takes the tooth of Romulus from Holly. Venturing into a crevice near a Mithraic dodecahedron, Marcus returns to find Decima dead, her face ripped off by Vril, who has become a nightmare with her synthetic skin missing. Vril kills everyone except Holly, who hides. Father and Lucius arrive, with Lucius intending to shoot Marcus, but Holly intervenes. Father convinces Lucius to bring Marcus back to the settlement. Elsewhere, Sue realizes that her vision is from the entity, and she becomes the latest to hear the voice. Sue sets out to find the Pentagon, hearing whispers as she shuts off an android she discovers in a drawer. Meanwhile, Lucius reports to Father that he found something while reviewing Marcus. He pockets a metal card, dismissing it as just a relic. Campion tries to assert himself as a leader among the workers, but struggles with his confidence, stumbling over his words and failing to connect, even with a joke. Mother joins Sue to conduct a baby scan on Tempest, revealing that her pregnancy is progressing faster than expected, with the birth expected the next day. Tempest panics, but Mother offers to care for the child until she's ready, which Tempest firmly declines. Now in charge of the colony, Mother faces Marcus, the murderer, and demands he renounce Sewell and declare it a fantasy in exchange for freedom. Despite Paul's affectionate plea, Marcus refuses, challenging Mother's authority and asserting his faith. Campion argues with Mother about Marcus's imprisonment, believing it unfair. When he discusses this with Father, the ancient android suddenly raises her hand, and Campion's touch causes her to speak in Old Mithraic and glow. It turns out the light Campion saw wasn't Saul. Mother discovers them with the android, which Campion calls Grandmother due to its age. Mother, distrustful, transforms into her necromancer form, preparing to stop the android if it attacks. However, the android passes out, and Father explains how he revived her. He repeats the ancient Mithraic words the android uttered, which Mother translates as, "Why aren't you wearing your veil?" Sue visits Marcus, revealing that Sewell spoke to her during a moment of desperation and answered her prayers. They discuss a plan for his escape. Meanwhile, Mother and Father continue to disagree about the ancient android, running tests to determine its nature. Concerned, Mother decides to keep the children away from the android until they know more. That night, the eel starts screaming as Sue and Paul tamper with the ancient box outside, blasting it with lasers, which seems to upset the eel. Sue ultimately frees Marcus from his cell. Before leaving, Marcus speaks of the tree and meets Paul by the acidic lake. Tempest gives birth by the sea, biting off the umbilical cord due to the sudden labor. Unfortunately, a strange acid-dripping creature emerges from the lake, snatching her baby and consuming it before disappearing back into the water. Tempest is left devastated. Mother, reflecting on the events, worries they've all become too human, leading to these tragedies. When she discovers Sue and Paul are gone, she's speechless. Outside, as night falls, Paul asks Sue to sing a lullaby, which opens the box, revealing a seed inside. When Sue touches it, the seed absorbs into her, and she becomes possessed, frantically digging with her bare hands and screaming to the heavens. The next morning, Paul awakens to find the box open and a massive tree blocking the sunlight. He wakes Marcus, who marvels at the tree, but Sue is nowhere to be found. Marcus finds a seed on the ground, and after biting into it, he notices the tree pulsating. Overcome with emotion, he drops to his knees, reaching out toward the tree. Paul hauling back numerous fruit from the new tree. Paul claims it's from Sector 7, but of course, this is from the tree Sue turned into. As the tribe members gather and begin collecting it up, trying what's inside, Paul turns away and hurries back to Marcus. He's convinced that this fruit is going to help people see the light and come around to their way of thinking. Meanwhile, Father catches up with the other children. They've modified a D7 surveillance drone to head under the acid lake, but there's a surprise in store for them. One of these creatures has been captured and killed. Tempest takes a knife and begins digging into its flesh, desperate to see if the baby is inside. It's not, as it turns out, and the drone's signal is soon lost after a brief stint underwater. Mother flies across and notices the tree, immediately touching it and realizing it's linked to Sue. 𝐕𝐢𝐝 happens to pick up the drone by the shore, having got herself back to working order, although she happens to sport a mask over her face. When the others see her, 𝐕𝐲 reassures them, claiming her earlier bout of violence was simply self-defense, but the kids aren't so sure. Interestingly, she has seen Tempest's baby, which is still alive. According to 𝐕𝐲𝐝, it's located in a sea cave 10 miles downshore. Mother exhibits concern and flies back, telling the other colonists not to eat the fruit. After all, it could be poisoned. However, mighty banging culminates in the great serpent breaking free from its cage and flying through the air toward the tree. As it flies, a radio signal crackles through on Marcus's radio, who happens to be there with Paul. 2 words bleed through, "Burn me." This seems to be Sue reaching out, and as the branches extend, the serpent swoops down and eats the tree, evolving further by sprouting monstrous tendrils across its body. Mother flies up and uses her powers against the serpent, but it doesn't work. In fact, the serpent uses powers of its own to send Mother spinning and straight into the ground. As the serpent flies off, Paul and Marcus decide to take an unconscious Mother to the habitant to recover. Unfortunately, she was unable to kill the serpent because of her programming. It misidentified the serpent as a child as she gave birth to it, and as such, she's unable to launch any sort of offense. So the only way to solve this is for Mother to be reprogrammed, with Father and the ancient Mithraic android the potential key to resolving this. Outside, a large storm attacked Father and the others. Campion got into a tunnel and encountered 𝐕𝐲𝐝. Out in the wild, Father, Tempest, and the others come across the sea creature with Tempest's baby. To their surprise, the creature is docile and feeding the child. Tempest, conflicted, forces them to stand down and not shoot, believing she can't love the child. As she walks away, Hunter defies her wishes and shoots the creature, taking the baby back. He tries to hand the child to Tempest, but she simply walks away, unable to reconcile her feelings. Meanwhile, Mother meets the ancient android, known as Grandmother, who is hooked up to numerous tubes. Grandmother reveals she was created by the technocrats as a shepherd to protect human beings at all costs. She theorizes that she could remove her veil and place it on Mother, potentially blocking her caregiving protocols, which could allow her to take more decisive action without emotional interference. As 𝐕𝐲𝐝's condition deteriorates, her spine giving out, she realizes she is about to shut down permanently. Walking through the woods with Campion, she scribbles down instructions on a tree branch before collapsing, marking the end of her journey. Campion is copying a final message onto cloth using berry juice, reflecting on 𝐕𝐲𝐝's grave as the mutated serpent flies overhead. reminding him of the looming threat. Mother brings Marcus to grandmother, who hints that Marcus's damaged mind makes him vulnerable to the entity. Father is uneasy about Marcus and Mother's plan to use grandmother's veil to kill number 7, but Mother reassures him. Meanwhile, Hunter takes Tempest's baby to an AI midwife for corrective surgery on the infant's webbed hands caused by mere monster milk. Mother uses the veil to lure the serpent into space, screaming at it until it crashes back to the beach. Campion is confused by Mother's appearance in the veil, but she explains it blocks her emotions. She then coldly extracts the serpent's brain and dismisses Campion's feelings for real. Mother decides to keep the veil on to avoid the emotional toll of number 7's death and exiles herself aboard the tarantula, leaving Father in charge. Father discovers that the metal card Marcus carries contains a disturbing message about Sue's transformation into the Tree of Life. Marcus learns from Paul that the Tree of Life was used to bypass the electromagnetic field and weaponize the serpent. Later, the serpent's corpse transforms into another tree, damaging the EMF and allowing the entity's signal to move freely. Inspired, Marcus tries to descend into a pit but is ambushed by Lucius, who nails him upside down to the tree that grew from the serpent's corpse, forcing a Punisher helmet onto him. As the tropical zone's climate shifts, Grandmother suggests using the chemical C as a food source, but as the children begin harvesting, Campion develops scales on his hand. The mother realizes Grandmother is leading the children toward devolution and tries to remove the veil, but it traps her, turning her into Grandmother's captive. Grandmother reveals her mission to devolve the children and forces Mother into a simulation to keep her subdued. Meanwhile, Lucius notices Marcus has vanished from the tree, only to see him levitating above, dripping blood. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.